It is 6:32, so he'll bring us back to working mode.
Yeah.
And we'll call the Student Achievement Committee meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is approval of our April 30th meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 30th meeting minutes.
Second.
Ooh. Any corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we have approval of our May 21st meeting minutes. I'll make a motion to approve.
You made the motion?
Yep.
Okay, I'll second.
Any discussion, corrections?
I'm abstaining.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That brings us to public comment. Have we received any in-person or online public comment? No public. And no public comment. Brings us to number 5. It's a decision item. Marketing revision presented by Laura Lantha.
All right, so we have a few more STEM courses. Finished up over the summer, which was great. So the Marketing 1 curriculum is part of our marketing pathway. It's sandwiched between Intro to Business and Marketing 2. Entrepreneurship is the suggested final course in the pathway. We use the marketing research standards from MBA research standards. We also we did Marketing 2 first before we did Marketing 1. So back in December of 2024, I presented Marketing 2. So we worked backwards from that course. One of our teachers took a deep dive into really what should be the difference between the two courses, and then worked backwards. So this course, Marketing 1, really is the foundational skills that students will need to be successful when they get to Marketing 2 and they're learning how to run a school-based enterprise. We are investigating the use of a Spirit Box vending machine at both high schools, where we could sell school merchandise or even just school supplies, travel deodorant, things that students might need. And so the marketing course students would be the ones to mainly run that. And Marketing 1 would be how to promote it, how to market it, what are students interested in buying, and then Marketing 2 would be the more advanced. So we are investigating that. We have a meeting this week, so I'm hoping that that will be a good solution to the school store.
Cool lifestyle.
Yeah, school based enterprise. The units are set up like this. So we have Unit 1, which is the marketing environment. I really like how the teachers approach this curriculum with thinking about the vision of the graduate and how I put in bold a little bit of how the curriculum kind of not just teaches marketing, but also skills that are transferable. So in Unit 1, the marketing environment is all about decision making and making decisions that connect to target audiences. In Unit 2, they do a lot of analysis and analyzing the market and determining which specific audiences are the target and how to reach them. Unit 3 is deeper into analysis and decision making, but then how that affects profit and brand reputation. In Unit 4, they hone their communication skills through the lens of promoting products, gathering and responding to feedback from customers. And then in Unit 5, they focus on relationship building, not only with customers, but with salespeople and suppliers. We have a lot of suggestions for teachers for differentiation using UDL. So this is a snippet from Unit 3 about how to engage, represent, and focus on action and expression so that more students have accessibility to the curriculum. So there's things in there like gamifying learning, real world relevance, how to provide interactive things for students. And these are just suggestions for teachers, but at least they're in there to help guide them. So every unit has that. And then every unit also has suggestions for teachers on how to reach our multilingual learners based on the CALP standards. So this is a snippet from Unit 4. We have emerging multilingual learners, we have expanding, and we have bridging. So the bridging column is really what we would expect of all learners in the course, and it's just how to move them along that progression or meet them where they're at so that they're able to demonstrate what they know in the course. So Heather Sweeney was our former business teacher at Bristol Central. She was the one that outlined the progression from marketing 1 to marketing 2 that we were able to follow. And then Brittany McCarty picked that up at Bristol Eastern and finished off.
Thank you so much. I have some questions. Anything on your end?
Nope, I like the interactive pieces of our curriculum as always. And actually, I'm looking at this and thinking, maybe course 3 is, Shark Tank Showdown, with 2 panels at the high school.
Well, I think entrepreneurship blends it though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't watch that show religiously, but the few times I have watched it, I'm like, it's really interesting because they get, they're in the hot seat,
Yep,
right? And that happens, and they're trying to, get investors and things like that. But no, I really like the interactive pieces. I love the vending concept too. I hope that takes off. Yeah, and you'll probably get a lot of feedback about, what to put in the vending, I'm sure. So they'll be able to do their marketing research just with their clientele in the building, right? So real life implementation, I think, is sometimes the best teacher. Thank you very much.
Maria, anything on your end?
No, like Commissioner D'Antonio said, I really love the hands-on approach, the school spirit machine, or that idea is, I think, amazing. It gives kids that real world experience, and no, as usual, I think the approach that we're taking with our curricula is really effective.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to move marketing revision to the full board.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. That brings us to accounting revision.
So accounting is not quite as exciting as marketing. It's a lot of worksheets and numbers and but again, we took the same approach as how do you reach out learners in an introductory course. So normally students would take intro to business, followed by accounting 1, accounting 2, and then advanced personal finance. So this is more of an introductory course. This course is articulated with Tungsten State Community College, so students can get that dual enrollment concurrent enrollment credit. This is students' first exposure to what an accounting workbook is, the purpose and functions of a general ledger, and an overview of the full accounting cycle. So again, we looked at all the courses in the pathway, made sure there was vertical alignment, but also had to attend to the needs that Tungsten outlines for us. So we have 8 units in this course. In the past, students began the course with the general ledger and accounting worksheet without really having a true understanding of debits, credits, checking accounts, reconciliation, bank statements, and petty cash. So we built in some foundational units there to hopefully get all students kind of on the same page before delving into the general ledger and the workbooks. So this revision builds on the foundational pieces that are in units 1 and 3. We also added some flex time into the pacing to address some lagging math skills or the needs of the diverse group of students who end up again, we followed the same approach as marketing 1. So this is a sample from unit 6 of a little bit different of a way of organizing it that these teachers took. So they did by lesson, how we could use the universal design for learning to reach all of our students. So suggestions there, again, for representation, action, and expression, and engagement. Real world scenario suggestions, simulations, how students can collaborate on things to communicate with each other and learn from each other, visual guides or videos, things for teachers to think about. And then same idea with the CALP standards. So we have our emerging learners, expanding and bridging, and again, a progression there. I really like how we're starting to put the sentence stems into our curricula for teachers to see. So that way, really they can give those to students to assess their knowledge if they're just an emerging learner there. really trying to get all students to be able to understand what their language proficiency is. So Lori Roberge and Sharon Jakes worked on this curriculum. They actually worked into June, and I gave them some Perkins funding to finish it up. They were really intentional in planning this and aligning the intro to business and accounting to who recommended it. So I really appreciated them taking that full scope and making sure that there's a continuation of learning for students.
Yeah, and thanking them for working a little bit over.
We have some really dedicated teachers that are willing to do that. So
I'll make a motion to move accounting provision to the full board.
Second,
Second,
any discussion?
looks good to me.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Grade 6 math.
okay, so we're continuing with our revisions to align to the IM version 360 curriculum. So grade 6 math is the kickoff for our middle school curricula. I had presented the Algebra 1 curriculum, which is the kickoff for our high school curriculum previously. So to refresh everybody's memory, we have a little bit of a different assessment structure now. So there are still quick cool downs at the end of every lesson, but we also now have checkpoints at the end of certain groups of lessons. So they formalized their formative assessments, which is good. So the teachers worked on this curriculum. They looked at the IM assessments, worked backwards, made sure there was the right amount of emphasis on specific lessons or parts of lessons. And then we made some notes about slight adjustments that could be made to assessments in the future, just things that we want the team to look out for as they're working through the course. It's aligned to Common Core. We are using units 1 through 7 from IM version 360 grade 6 math. Unit 8 will get covered in a future course, so we slow down the pacing just a little bit based on the feedback from teachers, but we make sure to cover that content in different courses. So there's a stronger formative and summative assessment cycle. We explicitly named the instructional strategies in IM that support all learners within the document. So the IM website is really dense, the teacher materials are really dense, so we put as much as we could write in the curriculum document so that teachers can see, oh, these are the instructional routines. I like this, the idea of this one, let me find that in my teacher's manual instead of trying to read through everything that's online in the teacher's manual. This ended up being like a 54-page document just because we wanted as much as possible for teachers to be in there. So this is an example of our differentiation through UDL for Unit 4. And this is actually mostly right from the IM materials. And what I like about what they do is they really help teachers to understand the purpose of the different routines that they're using. So at the bottom there, you'll see a note about diagrams. And they really want teachers to understand why it's important not to skip those things. That is really building a foundational understanding or a conceptual understanding. They also provide, based on the whole scope and sequence of their K-12 curriculum, receptive vocabulary, so new vocabulary that students should be learning, and then the productive vocabulary, so at this point, what vocabulary they should be using in their conversation with their peers or their teachers or in demonstrating their learning. And we pulled out the aligned unit materials for technology pieces that they also have online for teachers. So different applets and how those applets support the learning goals. So understanding equations and expressions, working with properties of operations, representing the relationships between quantities that helps teachers to really see what the main ideas are and how those applets and tools are helping students to work those ideas. The CALP standards, we use the progression of disciplinary language from the IM materials. So they use interpret, explain, and compare, and they actually tell teachers in which lessons certain things will be happening that get to that interpret, explain, and compare. They, explicitly tell teachers that what they can anticipate of students in each unit, so that way teachers know what to kind of formatively assess, what to look out for, what language is still okay to be informal versus what language needs to be formalized. And then this is an example of the lesson sequence. So you'll see the checkpoint there after section A, which is lessons 1 through 4. We have our learning targets and our success criteria, but what's also nice is for the checkpoints, we've put in how teachers should respond to student thinking after each of those checkpoints. So it's not just give the checkpoint, grade, and move on. It's now that students have responded in a certain way, how should you respond back? It also gives teachers suggestions of which grade levels and which units they may want to revisit with students if there's a misunderstanding. That's right there. So we had our former math coaches working on this curriculum, as well as all of our grade 6 math teachers. So I think we met 4 or 5 times throughout the year, rotated people in and out, and we really made good progress. I was very happy with the detail that they got into looking at all the resources.
I'll make a motion to move the grade 6 math revision to the full board.
Second? Any discussion, questions?
I have a quick question. I think it's very comprehensive. And my question was actually going to be, how do you anticipate this new curriculum to be rolled out to the math teachers? But I see that all of the 6th grade math teachers were actually engaged in the process. Is additional PD necessary, or do you think that because they were all sort of actively engaged, that covers the need for PD or a rollout?
So part of our curriculum cycle includes an implementation year after the year that we write the curriculum. So grade 6 will be in its implementation year. So we will use some Wednesday afternoon time and potentially some time after school as well, paid time to meet with teachers to make sure that they really understand the curriculum, unit plan with them, unpack some more things, because just because all the teachers worked on the curriculum, maybe they worked on only 3 of the units and someone else worked on another 3, right? So that is part of our curriculum implementation plan to support them throughout the year.
Would that have normally been done with coaches on Wednesdays? What was the model for doing that before?
So I think the model was more that coaches would meet with teachers during the day, during their planning time, or during huddle time. So without that support, we're just making the best that we can with Wednesday afternoons, or we have the idea too of maybe asking somebody that could be like the grade level lead for the district and having a touch point with us. So I think we have some different things to try this year. Fill that need.
And part of when we were using coaches, we were also using some planning time. So now it seems some of the results of the decisions that were made allow for planning time back in, but I just heard we might have to pay teachers after school to do this. So, we lost coaches to save money, but now we're going to pay teachers to stay after school. I think we need to keep a close eye on that strategy going forward and whether it's going to be productive or impact, student achievement in math. 6th grade's a critical year. I don't need to say that to anybody else. Thank you for the information. I think that's something we have to keep an eye on.
We'll talk a little bit more about that too when we get to the department updates and how we're thinking about different ways to support the student.
Perfect. Curriculum specifically, I did have a couple of questions. My standard question for IM math is, are all students getting a workbook?
Yes.
And I appreciate the teachers are getting the supportive material right within the curriculum. In the past, we've made sure that parents have materials to support their students at home. That's still ongoing with this.
Yep.
Does that include the vocabulary? Because parents could probably use the new vocabulary as well, so that they're saying the same thing while they're supporting their
I
students.
have to double check the family materials, but I believe the family materials include all the vocabulary along with videos for, and it's both in English and Spanish.
The rest right in the documents too, if you wanted to take a preview.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yep,
Oh,
a
Okay,
lot of
thank
links
you.
right in the document to keep it interactive.
Last question, the assessment, the changes to the assessment schedule. I'm assuming that's gonna help inform teachers more frequently, right? Or they're more frequent.
Yeah.
And which means that you have better means of reinforcing scaffolding or maybe changing pace, right? Supporting, maybe that class needs extra in the lessons to refer back to for refreshment.
Yep.
And do you also expect that that will assist with improving math student achievement performance?
I think so. I think there's also a really good opportunity here for the reach structure during the day as well. We'll have a little bit more information about before and end of unit assessment where students might need some support.
Extra support? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have.
Any other questions, discussion?
I do have one other question, sort of pursuant to what Commissioner D'Antonio was mentioning about the support, namely coaches and and kind of analyzing the methods that our teachers are going to be supported, so whether it's after school and rather than during the school day. What is this a major change in practice for middle school teachers, for sixth grade teachers to have this support with coaches after school?
I think, I appreciate the question now. I think, but I'm gonna get into more details about what we're thinking about in terms of the times that we have available and the supports that we have for teachers, for curriculum, and for
Okay.
instruction. And maybe that's a good place where I could highlight some of the differences between what we have done in the past and what we're planning to do in the future. Just so that Laura is not put on the spot just to answer it solely from that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. My question was not just to Laura. It was kind of global. I know that you're in the room as well. I just think most importantly, probably for most of us, is ensuring that teachers still have the same high level of support and that it's being done in a way that's budget smart, but also mindful of teachers' time and, aligning with the sort of contractual language. But I know we're going to be deferring to that part of the agenda, so we'll kind of wait there, I guess.
Yep, I'll be happy to, hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions then, and if not.
Okay, got ya. Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much.
Okay, so we will take a vote. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Civics revision.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So the first course that we're going to talk about in the humanity side of things today is civics. This is a required course for graduation, so it's a revision, not a new course. It's a semester-long course, open 10th through 12th graders. It was last revised in 2013. So the goals for these revisions are really just to update the course and make sure that it's aligned to the revised social studies standards that were released last year. The teachers really wanted to increase opportunities for real life connections, current events, and civic participation. So we look for opportunities in the new standards to do that. You'll see one or two examples of where we try to work that in. We want to commit to shared expectations regarding pacing and assessment while leaving room for teachers to adjust along the way, and build meaningful culminating projects into the course wherever we could. So we'll talk about how we try to do those things. There's 4 units now in the civics class. There used to be 5, so we kind of collapsed 3 of the units kind of got collapsed into unit 2 there, the structure of the federal government, to make room for the 4th unit, which is new policy case studies. So like I said, it's a required course for graduation, and students kind of first learn about the ideas that form the foundation of our democracy, then look at the 3 different branches of government, the legislative, executive branch, the public participation, and how that's impacted the political process, and then look at a few different policies. One of the reasons we organized the course that way, or things that kind of ended up working nicely with each other, was that we revised the culminating project. So the course now culminates in a policy paper that students write over the course of the semester. What you're actually seeing, these are actually the student instructions. So over the course of the semester, students research an issue that matters to them. They can do that individually or in small groups or as a class. Decide how to best organize that. And then the final project is a policy paper that explains how both the government and private citizens have impacted that issue on a local, state, and national level. And they work on that paper in stages over the course of the semester. So you see that there's 4 parts to that paper. That's because the culminating project for each unit is to add a piece to that paper. So they're going to build it over the course of the semester. That aligned with one of the goals I just mentioned, which was to try to ensure meaningful culminating projects throughout the course. So that way, not only is the culmination of each unit kind of a meaningful pieces of larger, the whole unit, the whole course is actually kind of built around this idea of tracing a single issue and seeing in each unit how different things will play out. Structuring the project this way also has the benefit of, like I said, making the course more cohesive for students, but it also provides them the most opportunity for revision of that because they're working on the single paper stages. If they write the draft or the background at the end of unit 1, but they can also then revise that when they come back to their paper again too, and they can revise again when they come back in unit 3. So that's one of the reasons why we organize kind of this culminating project in the units kind of work together and support each other in that way. So that's one of the bigger changes. And then another example of the kind of change that was tied both to standards and teachers' interest in current events and civic participation was that 4th unit on public policies. So unit 4 is now a case study of public policy. That unit was added to address standards like the one bolded above, which explicitly calls for students to examine and evaluate policy decisions. So you can see that this standard has students evaluate United States trade policy, so it means as a policy in terms of costs and benefits. And then students examine at least 3 policies in this unit this way. They all follow the same pattern that's here. So there's 3 learning targets. In each case study, they first look at any necessary historical context and relevant terminology so that they can understand the policy, why it was written, and what it was seeking to do. Then they kind of scrutinize the policy-specific provisions and details, look at potentially data-related outcomes, and evaluate different perspectives and how they impact different people, and then come to a judgment overall about what they think about that policy. So, like I said, we saw that as a good opportunity to kind of weave in more current events and real-world connections. And it also ties in really nicely to the final stage of that semester-long policy paper that I just explained. There's a last step of that is students proposing their own kind of policy solutions. So in the last unit, they take a look at what kinds of policies and decisions that had, what kinds of impacts they've had on issues in U.S. history, and then they establish proposing one of their own. So after they've kind of thought through the process and studied how that's played out, they do their best to propose a policy solution of their own. I really want to thank Sarah Hessler, Bunty Ray, and Jeff Fleischman, who really worked to reshape this course, and they were super flexible in terms of looking to new standards, really thinking about what they wanted to keep, what worked the best in the way that each of them had approached the course, while also being flexible and willing to change things and try something different to new standards and improve the course. So, happy to answer questions. Overview of civics.
I want to take it.
I'd like to make a motion to move the civics revision to the full board.
Second. Any discussion, questions?
Just a comment, it's even more robust than I remember the last civics course, so I'm impressed by the amount of content we're getting in here. And my favorite part is the change to the project. I like the student's choice. I like that it's not going to be overwhelming to them because it's staged and it's applicable with the point in the instruction where they're at. And I think it's probably, I think it would have a substantial impact on how they think about things because they'll have the time to do it. They're not rushing to research and try to complete the project at the end, you know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see if positions change along the way too, right? As a teacher, that's probably one of the fun parts of teaching a class like this is, you know, watching kids be like, you know, have the epiphany in the middle of an issue and be like, oh, we didn't even think of that, you know? So I like the project and I like that it's their choice. Thanks.
The choice provides some opportunities to differentiate. So it's different. A teacher can provide a different level of support if, for example, a whole class or a couple of groups choose 2 issues, right? It's easier to find resources or point them in the right direction or they can leave it individual to up to the individual student. And then it's a little bit harder to like collect things yourself for students, but it opens up more options for choice. So that's something that we're letting teachers kind of figure out what works best for each student. There's a range of options there to scaffold and support that come with those decisions as well.
So a student doesn't have to work in a group, they don't want to, right? Right, okay. Thank you.
Maria, any other questions, discussions on your end?
No, I think it looks good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Model United Nations is next. This is a brand new course. It's open to grades 10 through 12. It's a semester-long elective, so it's half credit. And the goal really for this course, the reason we wanted to add it and create it, is that we were looking to expand exposure to the Model U experience and to try to generate interest in public participation. So there's students who may be interested or may be curious, but maybe don't have the time in their schedule after school. They just don't have the opportunity for a different reason, busy sports, and not feel like they can handle Model U after school on top of what they're already doing. So this can give them a taste or a flavor of that during the day. Or likewise, kids that maybe aren't really sure if they're interested in joining a club, they can take the class during the day. If they are interested, they can go on to stay after school as well. And we were also looking to build additional introductory electives in an international relations pathway. So that's the next slide. We had planned to add Model United Nations. We have an existing global relations course. And we wanted to add a capstone course called Border States and Nations to be offered in partnership with CCSU. We paused the development of that one for now due to low enrollment on it. So when we offered it, not very many students signed up for it. It's not running at either high school right now. So we'll consider either coming back to that one or look for other potential courses that would be more popular with students to complete that pathway. But we're looking for something to flesh out in an international relations pathway. We see to continue to look for opportunities to line up courses for students for students in their interest. So that pathway is still in development, but we do have a great new course that we added as a result of that, the Model UN. There's 3 units in this course. The first is really just an in-depth exploration of the United Nations, the structure, history, and function of the UN and its different agencies. After that, it really gets pretty hands-on. So units 2 and 3 are really exactly what you would be doing if you were preparing to go to an actual Model UN conference. The bulk of that preparation work is doing the research that comes with a position paper. So often when you go to a Model UN conference, usually that is one of the main pieces that you bring with you. And there's a lot of prep and research and work that goes into understanding what that position paper is and how to do the research to write it. So students are guided through that process during Unit 2. And then in Unit 3, they really get guided through what a committee, what it looks like to participate in a committee at Model UN. So Unit 1 is really historical and kind of factual, and then Units 2 and 3 are really just prepping for conferences if you were going to the greatest extent possible within the school day during class. And an example of that, this is just a 2-lesson sequence from Unit 3. I just pulled out 2 of the days. And they all kind of that unit follows a similar pattern. So you can see that lesson 3 is really teaching what caucusing is. So students need to be able to describe the purpose of typical activities for both moderated and unmoderated caucuses, explain relevant motions used to propose and manage caucuses, including the caucus type topic declaration. So they're really explaining and learning what that is on the first day. But then day 2 is really practice. So then they make formal motions to start to manage different types of caucuses. And they actually participate in the initial caucus to identify potential allies or share ideas and begin discussing solutions. And it follows that structure. We're going to teach you what happens at this stage of committee work, and then the next day we're going to try to practice it. We're going to have a little simulated chunk of committee work the next day. So it's not exactly how Model UN typically goes because it's a little bit more broken up. We're going to teach you about it, and then try it. And just a huge thanks to John Stevens, who has a ton of experience with Model UN at Bristol Eastern. So he was really extremely helpful in helping me through what those structures could be and identifying what really helping way up that class.
Like to make a motion? to Model United Nations for full board.
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
I just want to say it's been a little bit muffled. I don't know if something changed with the audio. But I was able to follow, but I probably, missed a little chunk of that time there, so I apologize. What's that?
I think I probably just need to be louder.
Oh, okay, no worries. I was able to follow along visually, but I just couldn't hear some of the narration.
Just a comment for me, I like the thought process behind taking out a low enrollment thing, but giving a different opportunity of something that seems to be popular after school. It might gain popularity as a course. Is it only gonna be at BE still, the class?
It's offered at both schools, whether or not they decide to run it is gonna be based on how many students express
Enroll.
interest. Yeah.
And right now, the club is active only at BE, right?
Club, I believe, is, yes.
Can BC students still join that club at BE?
That's a very good question.
No, yeah.
Because if you're gonna market this as a class and then they find out there's a club and they could join, I don't know, just a thought, who knows? You'll
Well,
see
there
it,
might
let
be a
us know.
teacher who, after experiencing the course and the professional learning support that's gonna come
It is,
with that.
it is running essential. I actually believe it's not running it is running essential this year. So like if there's a core group of students and a teacher who have good experience with it during school and want to start to think about pursuing that in school, that'd be great.
So is the club running still at BE, but not the course, and the course is running at
I
BC?
believe so.
Got it, okay. Well, you get coverage that way, I guess. Yeah, so I do like that, and, I forgot what the other thing I was gonna say, so I'm just gonna move on, it'll come back, and we can always ask later.
That's it later.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Brings us to criminology.
It's a new course that we're all really excited about. So you may recall recently approving revisions to our law and justice elective, which was redesigned as part of our efforts to create a criminal justice pathway for the next. So like we were trying to do with international relations, we now have a complete pathway in criminal justice. Introduction to Criminology is the capstone course in that pathway. It's a dual enrollment course offered in partnership with SCSD. It's open to grades 11 through 12. It's a half credit course. It's a semester-long course for Bristol Public Schools. But students have the opportunity to earn 3 credits at Southern that semester. The professor, I do have to say, the professor at Southern was fantastic. She's been super helpful and welcoming to our teachers and supporting them in developing this course. So that's a really exciting partnership. She's expressed willingness to come visit the classes and present to them as well. So we're really hoping that we can capitalize on that over the course of the year. It's very popular. There's, I think, 75 students enrolled at BC right now and 52 at Eastern. So that one filled up really quickly. So there's going to be a lot of students with the opportunity to earn some college credit this year as a result of this course. And our goals were really first and foremost to create a capstone dual enrollment course for the criminal justice pathway. And in the process, really, we were just working to align the SCSD syllabus to the revised social studies standards and to adjust it, the syllabus and the expectations to the high school schedule and the high school semester. So it really is very, very close to the syllabus that we've got from Southern, just given the time that we have and adjusted along the way. So the course has 4 units: research methods, theories of criminology, types of crime, and current issues and reforms. It's really, there were some questions, I believe, when I presented law and justice about how those courses would be different. So I'll put that in the next couple of slides, but really it's that second unit, especially the theories of criminology. Those are sociological theories, and that's very different from law and justice. That's the main difference between the 2 courses.
Can we just do a sound check?
Thank you.
Want to take a breath? Can you hear us okay?
I can. Maybe it was just the how amplified it was. It's not going in and out like it was before. but if you are able to talk just a little bit louder, but I can hear you. You're not breaking up like before.
Perfect.
Thank you so
So
much.
sure. So just another example, some more concrete examples of how this course builds on law and justice and is a little bit different. You can see here that law and justice is a little bit more practical and procedural. So unit 3 is the criminal justice process, and that really just teaches students how the criminal justice system works. What are the steps, what are the stages from a police investigation to a trial? And then unit 4 is an actual mock trial. So again, what they're learning is the procedure. What happens during a trial, in what order, what are everyone's roles, and they're getting some hands-on practice and trying to do that. By contrast, criminology is different. It's really all about why. Why do we think people commit crimes? And students really explore a wide range of theories and ideas in response to that question. Some theories that suggest people make free choices to commit crimes, others that look at social or biological explanations for why people might be, that might influence their behavior, and they dive much more deeply into critiques of the system and potential reforms, and take a look at the system from multiple perspectives. And then what that looks like in difference in the targets between the two courses, you can see that law and justice on the left in unit 2 is really about classifying types of crimes. So what makes homicide different from murder or manslaughter based on the severity of the charges, and classifying non-fatal crimes against persons based on the defendant's mental state and severity of harm. So that's really just how are the crimes classified, what differentiates one from the other. Unit 3 is probably the most, in criminology, is the unit that is most similar, but even in that unit, you can see the difference. So that first target is kind of a little bit of review. I can define and distinguish between various types of interpersonal violence. So if they have taken law and justice before, that first target will be a little bit more of a review because they will have done that. But then the second target there is I can apply criminological theory to analyze the motivations behind a specific violent crime. So then they'll get like a case study of a homicide, and they'll practice applying the theories that they learned to that case study and try to explain why. Why did this person create homicide? Were there biological factors, or social factors, environmental factors? Which of those theories that we looked at best explains this? That's the course, and really big thanks to Nate Jandro and Melissa Nugent. This is brand new to both of them, so we really did need help from the professor at Southern, who was great. But this is a big lift for them because they're learning a lot of new content along the way to make sure that students have this opportunity. So they took on a lot of work to write the curriculum. They're taking on a lot of work to learn the course as they start to teach it. And we're super grateful to them for giving kids that opportunity.
Make a motion to move the criminology SDSU to the full board.
Second. Any discussion?
Is the credit only given to them if they go to SDSU, or is that any state school?
No, I'm pretty sure they have a transcript from Southern with credits on it.
Oh, okay, so it transfers.
Yeah, that's always going to be up to any individual university, right, to determine whose credits they accept for what.
I'm pretty certain that all of the state's colleges, excluding UConn, will accept credits earned at any of the universities, EastCon, Southern.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. That brings us to the criminology textbook.
Yep. So we are moving the first reading of the criminology textbook into student achievement so that we can do the second reading at the next board of ed meeting and get that book out to teachers as quickly as possible. This is effectively a required textbook for the course. The syllabus in the course, the syllabus we got from Southern is built around this textbook. The units are aligned to the chapters in this textbook. And it's definitely going to be an important resource. I mentioned earlier, this is new content to both of our teachers, so both them and our students will be leaning on the textbook as they learn the course. It's identified as a core resource in the curriculum. We are using grant funds from the dual enrollment grant to pay for it. So we're not anticipating any cost to the district at this time. And we just want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions you might have about it, before we have a second meeting at the next board meeting, and look for, approval there.
I'll make a motion to move the criminology textbook first reading. No, we don't have to make a motion, right? Because it,
To the full board for approval, second reading. This is a little bit unusual because we typically have two full board meeting readings of the text. Because of the timeline and not having a meeting in June, we want to make sure that the teachers can get the resource. So we thought this would be a good chance. We actually to hear about the book that's going to be presented. If you have, if you want to see a preview of the book, we can make it available before the Board of Education or any other commissioner. But I don't know that we need to vote to move it forward. It'll be presented again at the September meeting.
rescind my motion.
So that brings us to 12, Latin revision.
So this is Latin 1. This is a course revision to the first course in the Latin sequence, which was last revised in 2026. It's a full year accelerated course with 1 credit. And the main goals for these revisions were really just to update the curriculum, get fresh eyes on it, get 2 teachers together to talk about implementation, and move it into our revised template. We wanted to review or align to updated or anticipated changes to core resources, and just foster continued collaboration and alignment between 2 experienced Latin teachers, one of whom is relatively new to the district. So Kelly Monahan has been teaching Latin at this section for a long time. Kathy Riddick is an experienced Latin teacher who joined the district a few years ago. So we want to give them more time during the school day to really talk, map things out, and develop the resources. There's 4 units. At home enrollment, community interactions, enslavement, freedom, and leisure time. They really learn a lot. There's 2 main goals, which is to comprehend the Latin language through the practice of reading, while also developing students' understanding of the social and political history of the Romans. And they really do that by following a single storyline over the course of multiple years of Latin. So each of those units are aligned to that storyline and the core resource. And the teachers really spent the bulk of their time talking through the implementation of that, how we should approach it, how we would sequence it into a series of days and lessons to try to get the pacing and expectations lined up. And these are just some for the next bit. And these are just some 2 examples of how they did that. So they really tried to map out like how much time do we spend with each of these things, what do they look like in terms of lessons, and how can we differentiate learning targets and success criteria. So in the open unit, the first target is to describe the members of Roman familia. And then they're going to do that by using English derivatives and images to discern Latin words by comparing sentence structures in English and Latin. This was really good practice for them and for me to think about Latin, which is a little bit different even in terms of what language is. It's not a spoken language. To think about how to keep the function of the language learning the primary goal in the learning target, and the grammatical and linguistic pieces of the success criteria and be able to do that. So I think that was valuable learning even in the process of working and writing for all 3 of us. I'm grateful to Katie and to Kelly for entertaining my lack of knowledge in Latin, but helping them work through some of the.
Did you get to make your own toga?
I did not yet. I have not yet made my own toga. Let's see if we get to that point. Yeah, so just I wanted to really thank Katie and Kelly. Next slide for all of their expertise. And they're so committed and passionate about that.
I'm sorry, through the chair, I hate to interrupt. If there are corresponding materials, I'm not seeing them projected.
Do you see targets and success criteria right now?
I
Maria?
don't.
No. Was it working before?
It was. Oh,
Trouble.
Mrs. Puglisi sees it. Maybe it's something with my settings. Okay, let me see if I did something. No, I only see Mrs. Puglisi and then y'all. It's okay because I'm certain I have the attachments probably in the email. It was projecting. Oh, I apologize. It looks as though I somehow have it in a different screen. Okay, apologize. Sorry about that, everyone.
No worries.
So there were the targets, and all you're seeing now is just a big thank you to Katie and to Kelly. Unless there's questions, that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'd like to move the Ladder One revision to the full board.
Second.
I will say that I have had a student who did all 4 years, and Mrs. MD is the OG of Latin. And I am I can't tell you how grateful that students are in Bristol Public Schools to have this opportunity to take 4 years of Latin, because there are very few. Last I checked with Mrs. MD, she had said there was only 19 certified Latin teachers in the entire state of Connecticut. And that hopefully that's increasing, but it also limits, opportunities at the college level too, because they can't find teachers. So, and I'm equally grateful with Ms. Reddick for joining us so that we have a continuity
lucky, yeah.
of instruction. And I'm sure her and Mrs. MD are, sharing their passion. So now Mrs. MD has somebody else to, kind of register. I just have to say, and cause I was hoping Mrs. MD would be here, just so I can give her all the accolades. But honestly, we are lucky. We're lucky to have that, and I'm so glad that we still are able to teach it. I really am.
Yeah, nothing but agreement.
Yeah.
Nothing to say other than
You're gonna
I
have to go
agree
to some of the. You
completely.
got to do the Saturnalia ornament. This is a
I've
very
seen-
hands-on class,
I've seen it. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring in for a show and tell a couple of Saturnalia ornaments that I still have in the Christmas box.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. You're introducing the agenda item.
Sure. On to number 13. Office of Teaching and Learning, Curriculum and Instructional Services Department update.
And this one I don't have a slide deck for, but I believe that Superintendent White had emailed this earlier, Commissioner Simmons, so you should have this. Same thing that I'm handing
Thank you.
out. Thank you. I'm Mrs. Albert for Latin at
Did you?
Bristol Eastern. 4 years of Latin. Both my daughters are taking Latin right now. Not going to die. It is not a deadline.
It is not a deadline win. Are they pursuing medical?
No,
No?
they'd be very interested in the international relations.
Yeah, perfect.
They are also taking Spanish, so 2 languages.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about my own kids. Before I really talk about some of the changes to the department, I do want to begin. All of our presentations you saw ended with a thank you to the teachers. I have to begin this presentation with a thank you to the team. The summer for our office is the busiest time. Most school principals are very relieved on the last day of school and are looking forward to summer break. That is our busiest time because that's when teachers are available to work on curriculum, when we're thinking about our professional learning for the upcoming year, all of the ordering to make sure that teachers have the resources that they need. So I especially need to thank Laura and Leszek. They've been with me all summer, really working through some of the new ways of thinking that we need to think about as we're approaching the school year. I don't want to forget to thank Caitlin and Danielle, the other assistants in our office. They're certainly picking up some more work as we're trying to sort through the electronic files of some of the supervisors, Azra and Jillian, who've left. And we have our Encore office downstairs as well, who have been certainly putting in a lot of time this summer, working as a team to support not just the team itself, but the possibility that we can offer to administrators and students themselves. Finally, we have Karen, who is an unsung hero. She calls herself the book lady, book gypsy. There's a number of different titles that she likes to go by. But as an example of some of the lists that she's had, we've received over 6,000 books this week. That she
Yeah, 35 pallets of books that need to get out to schools before the first day of school. And so she's here working with some student workers. So it was a great opportunity for us to get some student workers. Joey helped us make that happen very quickly, so we appreciate that. So it's a learning experience for students. We're seeing Karen get the support, but she is certainly working from more. So I need to say thank you to my team. So the first place that I'm going to start is that we have decided collectively that we're changing the name of our department. So for, I would say, about the past 20 years, we've been known as the Office of Teaching and Learning. And the joke that I can say is there's nothing in a school district that doesn't have to do with teaching and learning. And so when people have a question, they call teaching and learning. So we felt like the title is really just becoming too broad, and we needed to more narrowly define what our title, really show what our work was in the department by our title. So moving forward, we're going to be known as the Curriculum and Instructional Services Department. I think it's a better reflection, similar to what's happening, the title of our People Personnel Services Department, because it highlights the work that we do and the way in which we're acting in service to schools across the district. So the first kind of shift we're making is that we're going to be known as the Curriculum and Instructional Services. We do a lot of work with assessment, but the joke has been that we don't want to be the CIA. We are not spies. We don't want the implication of
We're gonna be the
spying.
CIS.
So we're CIS, not CSI. There's no crime here. Curriculum and Instructional Services. So in recent conversations that we've had over the summer on how can we better help people understand the work that we do, we have had a mission and vision for the district for our specific department for the past, say, about 8 years since I joined, but we haven't really been very public about that. And so we thought that we're going to take as many opportunities as we can to help share what our mission and vision is, because it helps to define the work that we do. And so oftentimes when you're thinking about curriculum and instruction, you might be thinking solely about the impact on students. We certainly play a key role in supporting our students' attainment of the vision that we have for their graduation through our vision of the graduate. And that's what you'll see under that mission box, how we're supporting all students really meet the goals that we have for them within that vision. But an important part of our work is also working with teachers and leaders in support of that. So our work is supporting teachers in their understanding of curriculum, not just in the writing of new curriculum, development of new curriculum, but in the implementation as well. So we'll talk about how we're seeing that work, how we've done it in the past, and how we're going to move forward with that. We also support leaders because we know school leaders, while they are certainly important in the operations of their school, students wouldn't be learning without their support. So we work closely with leaders on how do they look at student achievement, how do they look at what we're really aiming for when we're talking about a new approach in mathematics instruction, for example. So what should they be looking for in classrooms? How are they giving feedback to teachers on that? So you can see that we as a department work to support students and teachers. In the vision that we have for us are the members of the Curriculum and Instructional Services team. It's going to be a mouthful all the way through. Is really that we are going to model collaborative leadership, that we're going to be working together. You probably have noticed that at most meetings, we're always here together. That's because we want to be a model for others about how important it is that we understand what each other's work is, that we really are setting the standards for what we want for students. So we are going to be very explicit in the curricular expectations that we have. We're going to hold students to high expectations. We're going to hold ourselves to high expectations as well. Again, modeling what that standard could be. We also want to be a model of those who work with a deep knowledge of theory and research. So we want to be current. And so that's a lot of our work together as we're building. Our background is spent on building our understanding of current theories, current research, current ideas that are going to support what we can do. That's why you're seeing some courses with very short revision cycles. That's because we're learning more and really want to put that into practice. And finally, we hope that people see that there is constant reflection and refining of our practices. So you won't see us satisfied with any one way of working. You'll continue to see ways in which we improve our work. So we hope that by working together as a department, we can set that as a vision for
the way in which we work is a model for others as we work with students. That's a general overview of what we see in the department. But I think more specifically, the areas that we have concentrated on this summer are those three primary areas of our work. And so I'll talk about those in brief. The first, which I think student achievement is very well aware of, is our curriculum support. What you might be less aware of, you see mostly the product of the writing process, but we do some work before curriculum is even approaching that design phase, and we support curriculum afterward. We formalized it this summer in the acronym of IDEA. So thinking about each curriculum in a 4-year kind of stage. So investigation is when we really begin work as individual supervisors, thinking about what is the current research in the area around this particular course. So you heard Leszek reference that a little bit when he was talking about the new course with Southern that required some learning both on his part and the part of the teacher. We're engaging in sometimes a year-long investigation. So right now, another example might be Leszek's work that he's done, grade 8 partnering with the 4QM strategy, bringing a huge resource to the district through the connections that he's built through some professional learning that he's done, bringing it to the district. Two national presenters came and worked with our middle school social studies teachers this summer at no cost to us, all part of some of laying the groundwork to thinking about how are we going to approach the writing of curriculum. That, if I think about when that happened last year and previous years, was really all after the school day, paid opportunities, likely mostly voluntary, either voluntary or paid after school, depending on how many teachers need to be involved. You might think about that as we have professional book discussions, and so teachers are signing up to join to be part of a professional book discussion so that they could read something and comment. Building Thinking Classrooms would be an example. Learn about practice, and then that lays a foundation for readying teachers to write the curriculum. Writing the curriculum is what we would be now in the design phase, thinking about how are we creating the documents that you're seeing here. And you could see that there's quite a lot now that you've seen, likely some of you, as the curriculum documents have changed, how we're really seeking to provide additional resources and supports to teachers so that they can better support all of our students. That in itself is a learning experience. Most of that work has occurred during the school day. We provide sub coverage in the teacher's contract that they could be asked to come to work in a district purpose for 2 days out of the school year. And so we've been using those 2 days to have representation from all teachers on our curriculum committee. It does sometimes present challenges, and so you know that sometimes we have to shift the curriculum that we're presenting to you. One of the most major challenges that we have is the availability of substitute coverage. And so there are moments when our supervisors will not be able to write their curriculum because they don't have the coverage that they needed. One strategy that we're thinking about this year is we've prioritized really explicitly any curriculum that has a test associated with it, state testing. So we're prioritizing anything in the English language arts, literacy, math, or science areas. And if we have to really think about some other priorities, then they're going to fall into priority 2. We may not get to those, and those would be all non-tested areas, elective-based areas, or social studies. There have been times in the past when another major change, I know some of the questions were around coach support. As we're thinking about curriculum development, one opportunity that we had built in prior years was on our Wednesday afternoons, we had department-specific or department-wide meetings that would allow teachers from both schools, if I'm thinking about a high school curriculum or multiple school representation at the elementary level. Another factor that might be impacting some of our curriculum work this year is the limitation of Wednesdays now. There are only 2 Wednesdays per month. And so we've had to think strategically about how we're going to use that time. Generally, the 3rd or 4th Wednesday when we could do it, it might have been used for curriculum writing purposes or a department meeting where they would review curriculum. So I'm going to get to that a little bit when I talk about the instructional pathway, because some teachers might be in 2 areas of work. So for after a curriculum is approved by the board, and it's great that we could see the grade 6 54-page document, grade 6 math curriculum. We don't want our curriculum just to sit. It used to say it used to sit on the shelf, but we don't have shelves anymore. Sit, never touched electronically, I guess, in the internet. We really want teachers to be able to use that. So we have a series of routines that we're developing to better support teachers in their execution of that curriculum. And so we're looking towards time that might be built into the August professional learning, where they could begin the school year for many of the priority courses, really thinking about the curriculum, reviewing the key components of that curriculum, and start the school year with at least the first few lessons planned using the curriculum document itself. And then many of the teachers, I know we identified below under the execution phase. So let me just, kindergarten literacy, 3 through 5 math, middle school math, high school civics, 6 through 8 art, 6 through 8 wellness, high school algebra, high school pre-cal, are all in this now execution support, where Laura or other teacher leaders who are stepping up can support teachers on Wednesday, some Wednesday afternoon, supporting in that regular ongoing support of that curriculum. What that means, so if I'm just going to take an example of high school pre-calc, on some Wednesdays, there will be teachers in the school who will be working on an instructional objective, purpose to improve their instructional practice. The pre-cal teachers may be missing that because they're going to need the support of Laura to help them really work through their pre-cal, get feedback on that curriculum, think about the upcoming units, reflect on students' achievement, and see what adaptations might need to be made. The benefit is that the teachers will really have a strong foundational knowledge of what that curriculum is. And the other factor that we've talked about is that Laura Leshik, any member of our curriculum and instructional services team, will also know the instructional purpose that the schools are working on, so they can embed some of that within that unwrapping of that curriculum. But there's the both and opportunity for teachers there. The final phase is really we're thinking about how we might need to adjust, sort of thinking of long term on, so when we're now revving up, what questions do we still have? What groups, where are there gaps in achievement that we really need to delve more deeply into? And how can we take that second year of full implementation to really address some of those gaps? So we're not putting any of the curriculum from last year into that phase right now, just because we need to try to manage our work a little bit in the upcoming year. Our focus is really on working with teachers, everything that's under the design phase. At next student achievement meeting, you'll have a calendar of curricular presentations as we go along. Our work during the school day will be focused on that, and the support of curriculum in year 1 will be occurring on some Wednesdays in the upcoming school. Pause if there are any questions about curricular support. Yeah. Take the silence as no question. Okay, so then the next cycle that we're focused on, and I think this is where it's been a very collaborative process, really where we see the mission of instructional services coming into play, is how are we supporting our Bristol model of high quality instruction within the classroom, within what teachers are learning and professional learning. This cycle in the upcoming year, so this framing is new. You can see that we're calling it the focus cycle. It was primarily led, the framing the focus, helping principals figure out the observe and learn phase, providing the research, providing some of the reading, creating the vision. So last year we spent a lot of time, as an example, focused on how are we going to define discourse for the district, whether that's like, what does kindergarten discourse look like, what does grade 12 discourse look like, and how are we engaging in practice to support that. That work is now going to be a shared endeavor between our department and school leaders, and it's going to focus around some of the questions that you can see below. So you can see our elementary focus questions and our secondary focus questions. Our professional learning planning committee, which is a subcommittee of the state required PDAC, took teacher feedback, what they really wanted to learn more about, and took our model of high quality instruction to merge those two to arrive at these questions. So essentially, each school is going to either on their own or with a network school based on their choice, choose one or more of the questions to explore with their faculty this year. So for elementary questions, we have in what ways can routines and norms from crew, that's our opportunity for students to really build a sense of a positive learning community, be adapted to support productive academic discourse. So how does learning about how to listen to others and crew play out when we're having a discussion with our partners about their math? The second question, what are the most critical classroom physical arrangements and routines that support smooth, inclusive discourse? And then the third, what adjustments to purpose, structure, or facilitation can ensure that all students participate respectfully in challenging conversations? So some of the survey data from teachers were really focused on better supporting some of the students within classrooms that might be presenting some challenging behaviors. You can see that kind of as a thread in those three questions. Certainly we want one of our main focuses of last year was that through discourse, we learned that everybody has something to contribute to each other's knowledge in the room. And so we want to make sure that all voices are heard. And so we'll work with teachers on how do we bridge that? How are we building in scaffolds and routines and going back to things that we're talking about in terms of how we interact with one another at the beginning of the school day, periodically throughout the school day to better support students in that learning environment. That does mean that teachers on those Wednesdays then are going to be doing some reading and research on their own. We have student voice as a main component, another way in which teachers are going to learn about how are students feeling. That is Superintendent Thwaite, one of her goals this year. And so we can see that flowing really nicely here. We can ask students, well, what does make you feel safe when we're having a conversation that might be challenging? What is your teacher doing to help you make sure that your students, other students in the class are listening to what you've had to say? And then they're going after investigating and researching possible options to consider, really figuring out what success would look like if they answered that question well. They're going to work in teams to really describe some of the instructional practices that they could further work on in their collaborative teams to support all students. The secondary questions are a little bit different. They too had the teacher feedback that they wanted more support around supporting ML students, multilingual students, and students who may require accommodations or modifications. We have a lot of great additions into our curriculum documents, but then they also wanted some ideas on how to better support students while they're instructing. So we're focusing on the physical environment, scaffolds, groupings for discourse that they could be thinking about to better support students who are ML learners and students who might require accommodations and modifications. They also had many, many questions about AI. And so they're going to begin in August with an overview of AI, the way in which they can think about using that as teachers, some things that they need to be thinking about in terms of supporting students in their learning and why AI might interfere with learning or could be an asset. So they're going to have that learning in the August professional development, and that could be followed up throughout the school year if a school selected that as their focus question, as how can you use AI to better support student discourse, providing students with opportunities to look at different concepts from different points of view. All of the instructional work is going to be occurring on Wednesday afternoons that are built into the school calendar. Principals will know when the curriculum track folks, those who are working in that year one implementation, will be out of their building. So they're going to be working tomorrow on identifying and mapping out when will I have my full staff to be able to talk about some of these questions, to share the readings that they found, to share the student voices. And then when they might not have their full staff because they'll be working on curriculum. And so they'll be able to shift between direct kind of instructional approaches when they have their full faculty, or sharing opportunities when they have their full faculty, and providing teachers with more time to research, learn, think about the practices that they're going to be using when they might have some of their teachers pulled out for
I'll take this time to ask a question specifically in here because you brought up the AI piece. So do you envision having, an AI review committee as part of, whatever structure or makeup you have? The reason why I ask, and secondly, a two-part question. If not, are there state level resources for vetting AI tools? Because even working in an ITD department, we are strictly looking at AI tools in a security standpoint, but that also becomes something that districts need to be aware of as well. Understanding the tools themselves and their technical prowess or not, and where the vulnerabilities could be. And so even in our own state level departments, we're creating review committees before we commit to any of the AI tools. We want to make sure that they're vetted to be safe, even for the district to use, right? So that just set the flag right up from what I thought. I just wanted to know how are you going to handle that?
It's so great because Joe's in the room.
Joe's
And you're like, what does that have to do with chief of time? So I can give you a little history on how we arrived at where we are and sharing this, and certainly Joe, you could feel free to chime in.
Was this your idea, Joe? Is that what she's getting at?
When I would say now about a year and a half ago, maybe about 2 years ago, when AI really first became available for individual users, we had begun as a district to do some professional learning just among our administrators about AI, some of the ways in which it could be used, some of the ways that we need to really consider deeply how it could be misused, and some of the embedded biases, elements such as that. And we committed to spending a lot of time learning about AI before making any decisions about what would be allowed or not allowed. And so there were some districts that immediately were very open and allowed a lot of student and teacher access to AI, where we took a more slow-rolled approach, I guess I can say. The approach that we did take after I would say we've spent about 18 hours with our administrators, 12 to 18 hours with our administrators on AI 2 years ago. We established an AI working group. We really wanted teachers to have a strong voice in AI and what we were thinking about in terms of both policy recommendations and recommendations for students' professional learning for teachers, teacher use, and student use. Joe was the leader of that AI working group. And so he led a number of teachers throughout the years. He and Rosie Bossy from Northeast led a group of interested teachers who had experience with AI, or even some teachers who didn't really want their students to be using AI, were fearful of how it could be misused. They attended multiple professional learning sessions themselves throughout the year last year. We've had some in-district consultation with Matt Horvitz, who is one of the most well-known AI experts now in the state of Connecticut for educational purposes, really weigh in on what our recommendations could be. At the end of the first year of work, Joe and his committee presented some recommendations to the central office cabinet and what could be communicated out to teachers and how we were going to think about it. Essentially, at that point, was recommendations of we really need to be clear in what the expectations are, which was at that moment, nothing was approved by the state for use with teachers or students. Nothing had student data privacy clearance. We didn't quite have that sandbox yet. People didn't know how their data was going to be used. So the recommendation at that point was no use whatsoever. And they did talk with teachers about the potential benefits, why we want to think about that. We have a belief statement about our use around AI. It probably deserves its whole item at an upcoming student achievement meeting, where we could share what those beliefs are. One pager. I'm gonna have this year's work. This past year, again, Joe and Rosie led the work with teachers and then checked in with our department, and we've worked collaboratively. Now to arrive at a point where we have a belief statement, we know that there are, I think, two confirmed uses. We're still checking on 2 more platforms that teachers can use that are approved by the district for use of their own instructional purposes. Those are Gemini and Brisk
AI. So Gemini is the AI, call it tool. Probably have some more sophisticated vocabulary around this than I do. Tool that's built within Google, and so because we're a Google district, they built it in a way that it's in a sandbox. There's no data is being shared outside of the sandbox, and it is approved through the Student Data Privacy Clearinghouse. Brisk is the other. Brisk AI is a tool that helps teachers see how students have access to AI. So essentially, it plays. If a teacher opens up a document, it plays what has been done in the document with a little video. So it would show if the student just copies and pastes a whole big chunk of text, teachers would know that it was likely that the student has used AI. So around that topic, we did have a lot of questions last year on whether we could use AI detectors in student work. We ran into some issues where teachers were running student work through AI, which is problematic for a number of reasons. One, it's the student's own work. You cannot be putting that out in a very public way without knowing how the data is going to be used. And then the other is that not many of the AI checkers are accurate, and so that could lead to some problems. So Brisk AI was a great alternative that committee has come up with, that we could see what the students' work has looked like. Leszek, certainly because he's in humanities, is working with teachers on really bringing more of students' writing into class so that we can work with students on that writing process and support them in their development of learning how to write. Along with that, part of the opening August professional learning is really around how do we have conversations with students if we suspect that they're using AI. So one is not to automatically assume that AI has been used, really thinking and talking with students about why they thought AI was going to be the solution to their challenge, where the challenges really began, and how we can better support them as educators before we just leap to trying to punish. And the policy that we're relying upon, should a student not be presenting their own authentic ideas, is our plagiarism policy, because it does cover students not authentically presenting their own ideas. And so we have that board policy as it exists. We didn't think in review, that committee along with our office think that the policy needed to be revised. Academic integrity is academic integrity, whether you're looking at your partner's paper or whether you're using AI for that. That's a lot, but that probably addresses some of the questions and concerns that you have. I would
Answer them. I have to really applaud you, Carly, and you. I mean, because to give that kind of thorough, prepared response for something that I'm going to ask detailed questions about, I know you really deserve the recognition of being able to play on your feet and answer things on your feet. And I just need to tell you, I appreciate you, and you are a model of success for your own staff. So I have to say that. But the Brisk tool is exactly what I was going to ask about. And my only piece that I will add, because you were so thorough in everything that I was about to ask, was, are we also, as you're developing this work group, putting in a teaching model to students about expectations at the college level? Because the college level is already, probably one step ahead, right? Because they have, extreme plagiarism policies and all that. And so, preparing kids now for the expectations that we have those expectations about plagiarism anyway, right? But this adds a whole nother level of complexity to what you have to do to monitor that. And there's this right now the AI is further ahead than we've caught up to, and it's going to be a challenge, right? It's going to be a continued challenge, and I'm sure you recognize that. But building that into preparing students for post-secondary and even in the workplace, right? Because some AI tools are built so that it provides enormous efficiency in the office. So we don't want people to think that AI use is just for plagiarism. AI use is to create huge amount of efficiencies when you get into an office environment, right? Do you want to spend the next 5 hours of your own time rewriting your meeting minutes, or is it an acceptable use of AI to summarize meeting minutes because people just want to hear what was said in the meeting, right? So in that respect, AI is going to be an important understanding for students when they get in the work world, right? And so what is the difference between plagiarism and using a tool to be a really good employee, right? So there's a nuance there. There's a teaching about AI, really, right? So thank you for establishing the committee in advance of even knowing that you did that and being,
Yeah, I will,
anticipating it, right?
I will say, as of right now, Gemini is a tool that could be available to our students. In our August professional learning, we are saying that we are not allowing students to use AI yet. The guiding belief statement certainly values the use of AI and how it can support efficiencies in the future. I think you and Lesha could have lots of conversations and been liking to talk about how AI could be used in the workforce, but we're an educational environment,
Right,
which
right.
is different, right? Where we have something to learn, and so we need to talk to students about. We don't want AI to rob you of your learning. You have to engage in that to learn, but there's certainly other things. Don't be my weekly planning schedule that could help you be more efficient in that. So we have to really be explicit in what we want students to learn and then when they can use it as a tool. We do have some foundational documents that talk about how we can communicate that to students. Are you using AI to do research? Are you using AI as a learning aid? Are you using AI to proof your work or provide you some feedback? Or is it not allowed because the purpose of the assignment is for you to really show your learning? We are planning on continuing work with the AI working group. Joe's passed the baton more formally, I think, to Rosie, who's been in this week twice, to think about what are our next steps as a group. And that's our focus, is how are we going to then work with teachers and communicating with students. A critical piece, and you'll see it in our revisions for the upcoming years, is when we're teaching our students to be solid digital citizens and the tools that they have available to them. Currently, that's taught in our library media specialist curriculum. It was just recently revised. We do need to go back and really think more deeply about how we can better support that through library media in 6th through 12th. You probably noticed that we have a big empty column. As we talk about the third cycle of work, which is on assessment, data support, and implementation. I would say it's in this column. There's a couple of reasons why it's blank. Bristol has been known for having one of the strongest data team approaches, looking at how students are achieving, how we're responding to any needs or any opportunities to accelerate students. A lot of those structures were facilitated by coaches within the school day during huddles, and so we've had to re-envision how we're going to approach that work. We do see that work still continuing to take place during huddle time, which is a time when all teachers of the same grade workforce can meet together within the school day. We just need to work with our school leaders on who in their school can help facilitate some of those conversations. It could fall more to the school leader. Other opportunities could be more of a collective conversation, and that would mean we really need to go back to develop a data cycle for teachers that we're teaching to teachers that they could follow on their own. That is going to take some more work and collaboration with teachers, so you'll see that there's nothing there yet. We anticipate being ready with the data cycle, thinking about that more deeply by about mid-October. Our huddles by contract, by the teacher contract, can't start until October 1st. So that's one of the reasons why we deprioritize that area. You'll also know, because you know when you get our SBA results, that a lot of the first month of school is really processing both our overall data from the assessments that were given at the end of last year, and then looking at individual student performance from those assessments. So we felt like that was an area where we could take our time and really think through how we wanted to be working with both the school leaders and teachers on their student data. Any questions about that? Lesha Gamora did so well in their time. They like had 5-minute presentations, and I scheduled 15. I said I could do this in 15. That's always my fault.
Well, I added quite a bit substantial to my one question.
You weren't expecting such a long answer.
So, no, I appreciate it. That way you didn't have to ask any more questions.
The last chart, I thought it would be helpful to get a sense of who is in our department. So I really outlined our curriculum supervisors, and the work that has been done by them in the past and some changes. And this isn't reflective of the whole department. Sarah Lupa, who's the Director of Adult Education and Secondary TESOL, is also considered part of the Curriculum and Instructional Services, as well as Sierra Beluzzo, our Director of Athletics. But because I believe more of the questions are around curriculum and instruction support, I wanted to show you these positions. I don't want to read over everything. You can see that their work aligns with much of what I just went over, whether it's curriculum, instructional, or professional learning, their use of assessment data, how they're processing that information. They also have responsibilities under budget, grant, and operations. So you might not be aware that our department budgets and purchases, hence the 6,000 mapped workbooks that are out there, anything that is required for curriculum implementation. So any textbook, any book, any consumable workbook, any consumables that might be used in science instruction, they're all purchased, ordered, carried out through our office. The other areas, I think, because we've had conversations here in student achievement, you're pretty familiar with. But I do want to point out some of the changes as we're looking forward to next year. So as you know, right now we have our secondary groups firmly intact, which is I'm so grateful for. We just had our new teacher academy started yesterday. All of the new teachers are at the secondary level. So it's great because they've been able to support our new teachers who have arrived in the district, and Leshik Kumar have been meeting with them over the past 2 days, really supporting their entry into the district. We don't currently have an elementary humanities and an elementary STEM supervisor. We've had conversations among our central office cabinet. Superintendent White has helped us think through how we can I don't want to say repurpose, but how we can think about the grant funding that we have available now to try to refill some of the vacant positions and restore them within our department. The elementary humanities position was one of the greatest losses that we've had for our department. Not only as, I mean, I could speak about Azra as a person, but I am going to talk about the humanities role. The humanities role is critical because that is one of the areas where we have the most requirement, state legislated requirement for literacy. And so she had, on top of curriculum revision and support in supporting our early scholars in their literacy development, many other responsibilities that did have timely deadlines to the state. So in thinking about what position we might need to restore most, that was first on our list. You can see under the changes row with the resignation of Jillian Roman, we have Alliance funds that are available. Alliance had funded the elementary STEM supervisory position. The Alliance funds will now be used to fund the elementary humanities position. There were some things that were added to this position, and so we have added back school readiness and summer school responsibility. Before we had an elementary STEM supervisor, those responsibilities did fall under the humanities. It was a general K-5 supervisor. One of the reasons why we added an elementary STEM supervisor was to try to better share the load. And so unfortunately now with some of the changes that we have in the district, she's going to have to pick up, whomever is in that role is going to have to take on some of the added responsibilities, because our hope is to be able to add a 10-month position as an elementary STEM to again restore some of the support that was lost when the position was eliminated. The funds for the elementary STEM position are anticipated to come from Title I. We don't have Title I yet, so we can't create this position, but we do anticipate funds being available because we had shifted TESOL teachers that were funded in Title I to Alliance. We knew that the number of students that we've had, and that was in the budget presentations and approved all of last year. I want to be careful of the language there because it could be a supplanting issue, but not supplanting, the TESOL teachers were moved to Alliant out of title because we knew that our ML population was growing. We needed to ensure that that was a more solid funding was available to support the TESOL teachers. Title I can vary between year to year. Last year we had a dramatic cut in Title I funds. This year it's looking like it will be restored to what we have seen in the past. But given that we did not want to put our TESOL teachers at risk of not being able to be funded the following year, Superintendent White put our TESOL teachers in Alliance. That has left some room in Title I where we are anticipating the possibility of bringing on a 10-month elementary STEM supervisor. Obviously, I can't have an elementary STEM supervisor working 10 months and a secondary STEM supervisor working 12 months and have exactly the same responsibilities. So that's why you're seeing a shift of some of the responsibilities that were done by our elementary STEM to our elementary humanities. It's another reason why Laura is seeing a shift in addition to her work, which is as the district testing coordinator. And we are going to plan on being flexible with some of the testing coordinator responsibilities between our secondary teams we're trying to manage in anticipation of where that work will be. I think that is anything to add from, I think that's the gist of where we are.
Can we discuss the changes in the arts and theater?
Oh, sure. So that was a position, if you recall from I'm sure you do, the budget, the last budget approval, I don't know the right terminology there. There was a request to eliminate 2 of the supervisors from our department. So one of the positions that was first eliminated was the elementary humanities supervisor, primarily because there was a resignation in that area. We talked about how we're going to try to restore that through other grant funds with no impact on the general budget. The second position that we were eliminating was the fine arts supervisor of fine arts. In conversation, that position was eliminated. Mr. Bagley actually, well, I think I owe him saying that he volunteered to become a teacher so that our team, we'll get emotional about that, so that our team could stay intact. Sorry.
Want to take 5?
No, I don't need 5. I just need a breath.
Yeah.
All good. All good.
Yep.
Really appreciate the members of our team, as you can see. He volunteered to take on a teaching position, so we reduced a music teaching position when he said, you know, this team really needs to stay in place. I could see myself teaching and still continuing to support in a department chair-like role. In conversations with what the work was going to be for Mr. Bagley, Joe was working with the BFT and BAPS about that role. It was decided that Mr. Bagley would still need to do some supervision of teachers. He would need to evaluate. And the first approach, I believe, Joe, you first approached the BFT to see if he could remain a teacher but evaluate. And they felt that it was better for Mr. Bagley to move into continue in the BAPS contract as an administrator, teaching 50% of the time, and then being evaluator department support for fine arts for 50% of the time. So he's going to be working in a 50-50% capacity, so he'll be working under the conditions within the administrative contract.
And he agreed to that.
Yes.
I can see how I can see how emotional this all is. So thank you. And thank you to the whole team for everything.
We certainly understand that there are some financial challenges, right? And we want to be part of a team to support and do the best that we can to support our students. You know, we'll do what we can. We have hope that in the future, the strong work will be recognized and some of the supports that have been there can be restored. And I think the efforts by Superintendent White, Joe, Mr. Krosky, I'm going to speak formally, made to help us restore some of those positions has been a move in a positive direction, in my opinion, and I'm hopeful that that can continue to move forward.
So I'm appreciative of the focus. That was one of my questions, was about budget restoration and how are the efforts going to be prioritized, right? Based on the numerous areas that were impacted by the budget cuts. So specifically, and this is, and I don't want to take away from the positive ending of your thing, but this right here with the elimination of this elementary STEM and humanities position, only to then be able to recover the funds after we lost the people is like, I've got about as much emotion on the anger spectrum as you just displayed, because what impact that has now, I mean, I hope that my colleagues on the board understand what just happened and who they lost, only to be able to restore the position because this wasn't thought out a little bit better during budget. And that meant on our end, not in here, okay? So I'm being critical of.
Well, I
our
can
board
speak
that-
to that. I certainly do understand, and I'm very deeply saddened that we lost such high quality people. Unfortunately, this is the collateral consequence for not fully funding education. And we need to be sure that we look at the enduring impacts that it has, not only this school year, but how this compounds itself over time. And we're certainly fortunate to have people sitting at the table tonight who are able to take.
Had the funds before the decision was made if we were able to find them again. So.
Oh,
I don't wanna
absolutely.
get
No,
political
I'm going to respond. I'm going to respond. Thank you.
And I really want to keep this focused on student achievement. It sounds like we're really creeping over into more of a political conversation. I think that we had great.
I don't think it's a political conversation at all. I think it speaks directly to student achievement and understanding the impacts that budget deficits or funding education, wherever you sit on that, has on what happens in the classroom. Budgets are the lifeblood of a school district, and we clearly see the impacts that it has on staff, and we're lucky to have people that can work within that to create plans to respond to that. And I'm actually echoing Commissioner Giantonio's concern and emotion in where we are currently, because we've lost great people and it has an impact on staff, which has an impact on the way that we implement curriculum and services, which has an impact on students and student learning.
I agree with that. I just do not want to get into a back and forth.
So.
And I want to be really clear on that, and I hope that we all can.
Yeah,
respect
I didn't think we were, but thank you. I certainly don't want that either.
Thank you.
The budget restoration piece, though, that I was also getting into, and this would be more directed towards Superintendent White. So as things reveal themselves as we move through the year, I would ask, and I know you will, but make it intentional to bring budget restoration as its own topic to the board, so that although you definitely have the power as a superintendent to make your own decisions for your district, keeping the board very well informed about, I did it this way because I saw this data to support this being a priority versus restoring something else that maybe somebody else doesn't like or whatever. Have the talking points there so that you empower us with the talking points when we deal with the community.
Absolutely.
Especially after the size of the budget reduction that had to be taken. So I would just ask that of you going forward. In the past, I don't think we made it that formal when we've had to do, because we, rely on the superintendent, and we still are. But enable the board to be able to communicate with the community that, there's active information coming back to us about your plans for when we can restore and what the priorities were and what was behind those decisions by making those restorations. So,
Thank you for that.
yeah. I just had two more things and they'll switch back to positive. And I wrote this before because I wanted this to be at the end. I have to applaud the former department name called OTL because I haven't gotten the curriculum information. I see I'm already gonna mess it up. So after this meeting, I get it. I absolutely cannot end this meeting without giving my gratitude for your fortitude, not only you, but your entire department. The changes that you've had to deal with for close partnerships and colleagues because of the budget session, and that you continue to drive forward through your entire summer to make sure that the work still got done with basically being decapitated, right? So, and I don't mean to be so dramatic, but I mean, it really was dramatic what happened to your department. And I cannot end this meeting without recognizing that this student achievement meeting tonight was so powerful about what you were able to change in a short amount of time and keep the focus on the vision of the graduate and keep the focus on student achievement that I'm blown away. I'm blown away. That's why I always, I've been on this committee a long time, since I've been on the board. I've seen changes. I've seen where the vision was going with OTL. Although I had to support a budget that had to reduce our budget, it didn't mean that I supported every decision about the cuts that went on there. And I felt like I was vocal enough, but in case I wasn't, I did not always agree to the drastic changes that were going to happen in this department. And maybe what I loved even more was this tonight. Because if more people actually understood this, I'm not so sure that this department would have been as impacted as much as it did. So I think keeping that current going forward as your department goes through changes over time is never going to be a bad thing not to keep. The marketing piece I think is brilliant. I just have to applaud that, you and your department. And I would ask that as you move forward with your changes, I already know you're going to have support from the top because she's involved, the Superintendent White, with the decisions that you're making. But this is going to be a lot of change for staff too. And I think it'll be critical for you, Superintendent White, to show the district that, you're supporting the work and the changes that Carly is presenting as the best way to get through a tough issue and a tough set of problems and still endure and still be able to provide our district with, just what the expectations have always been. So I just wanted to reinforce that because you might need it. You're going to be asking more teachers. It's got to be the leadership from the top has to say, no, these changes are going to be necessary, and you are going to support them. I think when the message comes from the top, it's easier to convince people that this is the way it's going to be. I hope you don't anticipate resistance. I made this other little note, but I think that's the department where, Superintendent White can help you with that. And the budget restoration was already answered. My only last question is, can somebody explain to me what the 2 Wednesdays is? So there was 4 Wednesdays in a month. So I must have missed along the way what we changed with Wednesdays. So now 2 are going to be for curriculum and 2 are admin PD.
No, so, I'm gonna have to refer to the contract, and so.
You can answer me later. Answer me. I don't need this tonight, just afterwards.
It was a contractual change on how many late Wednesdays there will be. So I think we were at 32 and then it went to 28 and now it's 19 for the school year, where teachers are going to stay for 100 minutes once students are dismissed. And so it works out to essentially two meetings per month. So that they're going to have one that is really school-based, all school faculty together, and then one that will be more of a curriculum track where they're going to be working with their supervisors.
Okay.
So it was 32 when early release Wednesdays first began. Then it went, I think it was 28 or 29 if I'm not mistaken, and now we're to 19.
So are there some Wednesdays where staff isn't here?
And that at dismissal, they're allowed to leave when students are dismissed.
I will send some follow-up questions. I won't belabor. Thank you.
that, those questions might be more under
Correct.
contract.
Yeah.
so,
Contract,
yeah,
yeah,
or-
contracting. Recognize that, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, at 8:22, if there's nothing left, we will adjourn our meeting. Okay, we need a motion.
I never thought we need a motion to adjourn, but I will entertain one just because I think we need a motion to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you have any extras of these so I can give them to those that couldn't attend?